Topics such as racism, social justice, slavery, oppression, and anything that could be considered quote unquote liberal can draw a lot of controversy on the internet. So before I review this game, I want to give you a warning. I am a black man from America, and I will be giving my opinions and 2 cents on the things discussed in this game. And of course, spoilers for the game. And with all that being said, Tales of Arise deals with a group of people called the Danans who have been under slavery by another group of people called the Renans for about 300 years. You play as 6 determined heroes that want to end the cycle of violence and build a new world for everybody. But how does the story hold up? Is the game fun? Are there any flaws you should know about as a consumer? Well, my name is Nerdtron, and this is my review of my first Tales game. And first, I'll talk about gameplay. As I stated before, you never played a Tales game. Only exposure I had to JRPGs is Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, if Kingdom Hearts can be counted. So when I popped this game in, I assumed it would be like turn-based, but was pleasantly surprised when I was able to freely control the main character Alphen and use the multitude of attacks he had at his disposal. At first, the player is stuck with a few moves. However, as they level up and gain proficiency at each individual character quirks such as fist strikes and leg strikes, they gain more techniques called arts. Arts are magical abilities that have different properties depending on which one is unlocked. For example, Alphen has a technique that's called Thunderfang, which has the effect of lightning and light. These properties affect enemies that the player fights throughout the game. For example, fire arts do extra damage to water monsters and vice versa. However, that's not the case with every enemy. Some enemies have no elemental weaknesses, and you'll have to use other abilities to turn the tide of battle. Luckily, each character comes with a boost ability. These boost abilities allow you to summon an ally to use their boost attack, which has a different effect depending on which ally you choose. For example, the character Law can break through the defenses of enemies in armor, and the character Kisara can stop a charging enemy dead in their tracks with her giant shield. This battle system has a lot to offer, not to mention that characters can use their abilities outside of combat to solve puzzles and get past obstacles. And you can tell that the developers were really trying to differentiate themselves from other JRPGs with these battle systems. And I can appreciate that. And not only that, but they also went out the way to make the characters feel unique and fit the playstyles of different gamers. However, there are some flaws with the gameplay. For example, each character yells out their attack name every time it's used. And though I'm used to certain things like that, it did get a bit tedious after a while and made me even mute my TV at one point. And there's also a point in the game where items get kind of expensive, and I can't tell if the game wants you to get good or wants you to spend money on the DLC that's available for purchase, which kind of hampers the experience because you shouldn't design a game around DLC in any aspect. The DLC should be designed around the base game. But those are my only complaints about the gameplay. Otherwise, it's a fun series where you fight monsters, slay lords, and yeah, I have to say, gameplay is just fine. But while the gameplay is fine and good, I have to say the story is what truly grabbed my attention. Which brings me to my next segment. Tales of Arise takes place in a world called Dana. The people of Dana have been enslaved by a people called the Renans for about 300 years. And with each of the 4 regions of Dana, there are lords that subjugate their people in their own way. As the player progresses through the story, they learn just how evil and sadistic each lord can be, with the exception of one. That's for another video. While working in a little region of fire to mine ore, or working in a factory to produce light, the game does a good job of making you hate each lord before even meeting them. That being said, there's a reason that they're making the people work to death in their respective regions. Each lord is tasked with gathering as much astral energy, or life energy, let's be honest, as they can from the people of Dana by using these crystals that have been embedded in them since the day they were born to gather said astral energy. The lords of each region compete in the thing called a crown contest, and whoever gathers the most astral energy becomes the sovereign and rules over Arena until the next crown contest begins. While there is a deeper mystery surrounding the crown contest, the story helps the player understand that this has been going on for centuries, and that both Danans and Renans are so oppressed or indoctrinated that no one questions why it's happening or why hasn't someone stopped it, you know? And I want to do a series on each character and how they've been impacted by this oppressive system. So I won't go into too much detail here. However, I can say that each character is fully fleshed out and you understand their motives from doing things, whether it be from their initial meeting or later in the game. Now, here's the part I warned you about. As a black man, I naturally root for the Danans when they rise up and try to throw off the shackles of oppression and cheer every time a lord is beaten. And while it seems like a cookie-cutter plot, there are subjects such as slave mentality, forgiveness, moving forward despite the scars of the past that the game likes to explore. And while I do not agree with everything the game has to say about each subject, I can respect the conviction in which the game states its views. For example, the mentor character, Zephyr, talks about forgiving Renans and coming to the table to negotiate when everything is said and done. I believe forgiveness should come when the party that committed the wrong accepts responsibility for what they did and takes action to prove that they changed for the better. There has to be some consequences for the actions taken, or the guilty party won't learn anything. So while I do understand why Zephyr wants to avoid his people becoming consumed by hatred, I can't agree with just forgiving them and moving forward, you know? However, this game does make a good argument for what happens when you are consumed by hatred and why forgiveness is necessary. For example, there's one of the resistance leaders bombs an entire city full of his people in order to drive out their lord, which is something I don't agree with. And in another region, you literally get sold out by your own people in order to save your own skin. And it's kind of messed up when you actually think about it, that these people who have been oppressed for 300 years would set each other out at a moment's notice. Hell, there's even a character that even participated in his own people's suffering. But like I said, that's a story for another time. And Tales of Arise does make a strong case for forgiveness, and I can respect it for the case that it makes, and I'm glad that it made me think about, you know, what's it like to forgive or let hatred take over you. The story did something that it should make every gamer do. Think about their current position on a topic and see if they can be more flexible, or see if their opinion remains unchanged. And while I'm hoping for a sequel, just to see how everyone turns out in the future, I can say the ending of the game is satisfactory, albeit an anime ending. So that's what you get for when you play a JRPG. But the gameplay is good, the story is great. Now let's talk about presentation. Tales of Arise is a beautiful game. The cel-shaded style allows for a lot of expression with not only the characters but the environments, monsters, and fights as well. When performing an art, each character has so much personality put into them. You can tell how they fight from just seeing them do one art. For example, the main character often uses two swords. One of them, a blazing sword, can either stun an enemy whenever you use it, but it costs you your health. Now, sometimes I make him use the sword in every fight, despite it costing him said health, just to see how fluid he moves with the sword. There are also these things called mystic arts, sort of an ultimate attack each character can do to cause massive damage to the enemy. Each one is beautiful, and you can tell the developers had their fun when creating these animations. And while the game is beautiful, it is important to note that there is a severe problem with copying. Whether it be enemies, NPCs, you sometimes won't see them until you're up close. However, that shouldn't hamper your experience. It's just a little nitpick of mine that I don't really like in my games. With that being said though, Tales of Arise is a stunning game with a great anime aesthetic, and I would fully recommend it if you're interested in JRPG. Now for my summary and score. When I first saw Tales of Arise, I thought I would put it down for, after playing it for a week. So after playing it for over 50 hours, I'm glad to say I didn't put it down. As much as I play Guilty Gear, I play Tales of Arise just as much. With deep gameplay that has you constantly adjusting your strategy, a strong story that gets you to think, and a stunning look, Tales of Arise hits on a multitude of aspects that I believe that caused me to become a fan of this series. I'm gonna have to say, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment description below, and let's talk about this game. And look forward to the series I'm gonna do on each of the 6 characters in the future. But hey, my name's Nerdtron, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Alright.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.